An entitled Karen loses her mind after I get my cup of coffee before she does at a coffee shop. Things got so bad that this entitled Karen not only screamed and cursed at everybody in the store, but she also got arrested for assaulting a cop. Here's what happened. So this was in the winter about a year ago during one weekend morning. I was waiting for a haircut appointment, so I walked next door into a popular coffee shop. Now the place was busy, but not packed all the way. There were 2 people in front of me and shortly a few people behind me. The person in front of me had an expensive coat, expensive jewelry, and had this look on her face like she was ready to ask for a manager. She gave her order, which was highly specific, like she really knew exactly what she wanted. She was told it may take a few minutes, and so she stood by the 2 or 3 other people who were also waiting for their order. She was asked for the name on the cup to be called out, and for the sake of the story, we'll say that her name is Karen. Well, it was my turn to order, and I don't really need much to make myself happy. I don't need anything complicated. In fact, I can sum up my coffee order with the word large, and sometimes I have to clarify by saying large and black. Surprisingly, the guy behind the counter repeated my order and somehow was able to turn it into a full paragraph. After confirming that I wanted a simple large coffee, I said yes, and this guy turned around, took 2 steps to the other counter, fills up the cup, I pay, and then he hands it to me. And I think to myself, okay, this is all good, except things go south as soon as this entitled Karen sees what's going on. I start to walk away with my cup of coffee when I notice this entitled Karen looking at me with a look on her face as if she's completely bewildered. I then see her take 2 steps to the counter and start this whole, oh, I need to speak to a manager right now. I then stop to look and watch the scene, and the argument kind of started by saying, where is my latte? And why did that ratty slob behind me get his first? What happened to first come, first serve? The guy behind the counter then tried to explain the difference between the orders, but she was not having it, as she was getting louder and louder. She was cursing and yelling, literally all the fireworks you would ever expect from this kind of interaction. I then see one person who was in the back of the line unzipped his coat, revealing a police officer uniform. He then was making his way up to the front to make his presence known. So you now have a manager behind the counter arguing with this Karen, with a cop who was waiting in line stepping in. Now the cop was just trying to get a word in by saying what she was doing was unreasonable and she was causing a disturbance and that it's best to just calm down. Well, the Karen just stopped in shock, realizing that the cop is not on her side. She looked at him and said, what is wrong with you? I am a victim here. I paid my good money and I am not serviced. They should be the ones arrested. She then started to act shocked all the way back to angry. She then took her finger and started jabbing the officer in the chest. She said to him, you need to do your effing job. Well, as a result, the officer grabbed her arm and did a full-on takedown. The Karen was face first into the floor screaming, with the officer eventually reading her Miranda rights, saying that she's under arrest for assaulting a police officer as well as disorderly conduct. Another cop ended up coming into the store when they heard yelling just to help out. Now, I did ask if they need me to make a statement or something like that, but they said they have enough. After that, I just left because that Karen was completely out of control. Man, some people are so unhinged. She seriously started jabbing a police officer in the chest. Like, I don't know about you, but there's no way I'm ever gonna put my hands on a cop, especially over a cup of coffee. Like, what's going on right now? Is it that serious? Like, she clearly really needed that right now. Like, that is some crazy behavior, and hopefully she learned her lesson that this is not how you act in public. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband doesn't want me to take a certain medication as he feels that I could just lose weight the natural way instead of gaining some kind of assistance from medications. But now I've begun to resent him after the arguments we've had, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm diabetic and I have an unhealthy relationship with food. I don't eat large amounts of my main meals, but I love to snack. And I also stress eat. Given my genetics and family history, that is enough to make me diabetic at just 27 years old. For the last 2 years, I tried a lot to quit the bad habit and be more physically active and all this other stuff, but it is an addiction. It has been hard for me to quit, probably unless I'm physically restrained from eating. I went to therapy last year and I tried 2 different therapists, but it just didn't help. And I will continue to look for a suitable therapist. The habit of overeating and not being able to lose weight bothers me a lot. It makes me so sad and irritable. But weirdly enough, I still cannot quit. I feel like a failure all the time. Seeing that I'm struggling, my doctor asked me if I wanted to try some type of medicine, which will stop me from overeating and snacking, but will also work excellent for blood sugar control. She warned me that I need to develop good habits while I'm on it. Otherwise, I will start eating again once I am off the medication. So after some thought, I agreed and I tried it for a month. And I felt extremely good mentally. Not having snacks at home wasn't an emergency emergency anymore. I did not think about food constantly and started feeling more confident again. Except I didn't when I mentioned it to my husband. He doesn't like medications in general unless there is no other way to figure out what's going on. He is super against taking medications to aid weight loss or diabetes, and instead he prefers lifestyle changes. He himself has made several such changes for the benefit of his health, which of course yielded great results for him. Unfortunately for me, due to my addiction to food, it's not so easy. Anyways, I wanted to try this medicine for a month or so, and then discuss it with him and take it for a longer term. Well, as fate would have it, he found the package, and when he did, he was absolutely livid. He felt deceived, and he felt kinda cheated that I didn't discuss such an important decision with him. If you look at the dynamics of my marriage, it is true that we usually would have discussed this beforehand, but I didn't want to do that because, for starters, I wanted to try it before discussing, and secondly, in general, I don't like to discuss my diabetes with anyone in detail, as I am extremely ashamed and self-conscious about it. Anyways, he was extremely upset for like 2 to 3 days. He told me that he has trust issues now, which again, given the dynamics of my marriage, it is to be expected for him to feel so. But after that, he was okay as long as I never took it again and always discussed these kinds of things with him. So I said okay. It's now been 2 months since this happened, and I've been eating like before since the previous month. Back to my previous weight, feeling like garbage again. So truly, what do I do here? Should I secretly start taking the medication again? I really want to, but I just don't want to hurt him again. If I am honest with him, he will never agree to me taking it. The other day I asked him, would you rather me suffer the complications of diabetes than taking this medication? And he told me I won't have complications if I were to exercise and eat right. And it's like, of course, why didn't I think of that before? So at this point, I'm really frustrated, and I think I've started to resent him just a little bit more. What should I do? Okay, this is so weird to me because your husband is completely out of line. My God, this is medication from a doctor. It doesn't sound like he's a doctor, and instead it sounds like he's shaming you for your weight. But here we have an option that will also help your weight as well as your diabetes. And the doctor even said like, hey, you need to get like good habits when it comes to eating, otherwise you're gonna be back to square one. So the fact that your husband's not looking at this as a good thing, as some kind of way of getting back on the right track, in my opinion, is so backwards. Because at the end of the day, this is not his choice. Like, you really don't have to run every single medication by him all because he has some weird bias. Because I'm willing to bet that your husband is not any kind of medical professional in the slightest. And if I was in your shoes, I would not be allowing him to control what I do with my health. Am I the jerk for beating my girlfriend's brother at a video game that I would normally let him win at? Because after I found out he was talking trash about me to his friends behind my back, I decided to let loose and show him how good I really am, resulting in him storming off to his room on the verge of tears. Here's what happened. When I would visit my girlfriend's house, I would sometimes play games with her little brother who is 12 years old. When I would play competitive games against him, I would normally just let him win. And we're talking about games like Call of Duty or stuff like that. I was visiting again a few days ago, and her little brother had 2 of his friends over, and I overheard him talking about me. He was telling them how bad I was at games, and it must make me really stupid to be that bad. He said my girlfriend must be stupid for dating me too, and I could hear his friends laughing about all of this. And this was quite harmful, as I'd always tried to be friendly with the guy. Well, a bit later, I asked him if he wanted to play some games, and while he was acting polite, I could see his friends laughing to themselves. Well, I played Call of Duty against him, and I did not go easy. Fast forward, and his friends were now laughing at him, and he was on the verge of tears before he stormed off to his room. Well, my girlfriend wasn't happy, and later in the car, she accused me of deliberately making her brother cry. I told her I wasn't trying to do that, and I just didn't like how he was talking about me or her. She said that he's just a little kid, and I should have just left it alone. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk, and honestly, I am so proud of you. The second any little kid wants to start talking trash, especially about a video game that I'm letting them win at, then in my opinion, it's time for the training wheels to come off and for that kid to get a dose of reality. I don't care how young he is or how fragile his ego is. It doesn't matter that his friends are there or anybody's watching. He's about to learn a valuable lesson, and there's nothing he could do about it. So no, you are not the jerk. This kid was talking trash. He had no reason to do that. And the fact that he was calling you stupid and saying, oh yeah, he sucks at this game, he's so bad. Like, at that point, he's the volleyball and it's time for you to spike it onto the floor. So no, your girlfriend's completely wrong. You are not the jerk in this situation because her brother absolutely needed to be humbled. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my cousin and for calling him a brat, even though it lets my aunt work extra and help her family out? Because right now I'm at my breaking point and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 15 years old and my aunt, who we will call Aunt Cassandra, has a 12-year-old son who we will call Tristan. Now this kid is a nightmare to be around. My mom started asking me to babysit him so that Aunt Cassandra could pick up some extra work. Well, Tristan lies to Aunt Cassandra about me. family because he knows that she'll buy him a present to make it up to him. I was babysitting him on Friday and he had a screaming fit because I refused to give him his phone until he did his homework, which is something that Aunt Cassandra instructed me to do. Because he lied that I had friends over and destroyed the house the last time, I recorded everything to prove my innocence. Well, I showed it to Aunt Cassandra and she still blamed me, saying Tristan doesn't like being recorded and that's the only reason he was acting out. I have told my mom numerous times that I don't want to babysit Tristan because he lies and I get punished for it, but my mom has basically just made excuses, saying that kids his age are like that and that I babysit other kids, so this shouldn't be a problem. I showed my mom the video and explained everything that happened on Friday, but she is still saying that Aunt Cassandra needs the help because the money from working extra is a huge help, and I can do this for my family because she needs a dependable babysitter. Well, we just got into an argument because she asked me to babysit Tristan again this Friday, and I told her no, because this kid is a lying brat. I added that maybe refusing to discipline him is the real reason Cassandra can't keep a babysitter on board, and she should try babysitting him to see what it's like. Well, I'm now currently grounded, but this has been going on since the summer, and my patience is completely out. So am I the jerk for finally having enough and refusing to babysit this kid, even though the extra money that Aunt Cassandra brings in really does help her family out? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, I don't blame you for refusing to babysit that kid, because he does sound like a nightmare. You have literal video evidence that he was lying about all the stuff he was saying about you, and still your aunt and your mom were completely against you. Like, they really tried to blame you still for this idiot's behavior, and that is so unfair. Like, at that point, you can forget the money. I don't care about your family. I'm being treated like some kind of pariah in the family. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't look at being grounded as a bad thing, because I think you have it right. This kid has never been disciplined in his life, and you just so happen to be the only one pointing this out. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to babysit this brat, because in my opinion, that is exactly what he is. My entitled friend brings her 4-year-old kid to my wedding after I explicitly said I don't want any kids under the age of 14 at my wedding. But my friend called me the jerk as well as a hypocrite, all because I was bringing my 11-month-old daughter for pictures and to be held during the reception, claiming that if I bring my kid, then my annoying friend can bring hers. Because right now, I'm really starting to second guess myself, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I recently just got married. We spent almost a year planning the perfect wedding, taking the right precautions and all this other stuff. And one of our first rules that we decided was that it was a no-kid wedding. We wanted an environment where we wouldn't have to worry about children running around, getting into things, or crying. We made it very clear on our invitation that we didn't want anyone to bring their children under 14 years old. However, we did decide that we wanted to bring our daughter, who was 11 months old, and I wanted to hold her during the reception and photo taking, and then have a family friend drive her home and wait for the babysitter to get there before coming back. Before we settled on that friend, we asked a few people. One of the people we asked was the wife of my husband's close friend, who we will call Jessica. She declined because she didn't want to drive, which worked out fine as we were able to find someone else. So on the day of our wedding, after we told everyone several times about the no kids rule, she showed up with her 4-year-old. I was obviously taken aback, but I went to ask her about it. Well, she then told me that since I was bringing my kid, it was okay if she took hers. Honestly, I was furious. I tried to stay calm and tell her that this is a child-free wedding and that she can't let her kid just run around. But if she took her kid home, she was still welcome to come back. Well, it was then that she started yelling at me about how since I had a kid, it wasn't fair that she couldn't have hers. And by the way, her son at this point was already climbing on things, as she just let him run free. I told her that this was her last chance or she would need to leave. Well, she just rolled her eyes and sat down in a chair and just watched her son run wild. Eventually, her husband convinced her to get her kid and leave, but this ruined the entire first part of my wedding. It's been a few weeks now and I've been thinking about it, and maybe I was in the wrong. I said no kids at my wedding, but I brought my own. And a lot of people in my life are also saying it was hypocritical at the least. So am I at fault here? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk in my opinion, and here's why. Your 11-month-old baby was only there for pictures and then she was going back home. She wasn't going to be allowed to run around and do whatever she wanted, and she wasn't going to be climbing over stuff and possibly breaking things. This is completely different than what your stupid friend was doing. She brought her 4-year-old and said, "Oh, you're bringing yours, so I'm going to bring mine." It's like, no, you're not. This is my wedding and it's my rules. She is literally going to be in your arms while you're doing like the major things. And it sounds like you're just doing this for pictures, which in my opinion is a good idea. So for your stupid friend to be like, "Oh, this is a license for me to bring my kid," you're right. That is such a crazy assumption, and honestly, it's completely unfair. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, because the way your friend acted towards you, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. JessieLynnReddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for considering going behind my friend's back and splitting us up out of our group assignment after she has literally done nothing but treat me like garbage the entire time? Because right now, I'm worried that she's gonna freak out on me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, me and 4 other people have been friends for about 3 years. For the sake of the story, we'll call them Amber, Lily, Riley, and Corey. Amber has always favored Riley over everyone else in our group and isn't as kind to everyone else. Amber is pretty lazy and tends to not do schoolwork until the last minute. She also doesn't put in a lot of effort into group assignments. Well, we had a group assignment for one of our classes, and I didn't want to work on it alone. So I paired with Amber as Riley was already paired with someone else, and the others weren't in this class. Everything was going fine until one day when we were talking about a different assignment, and it suddenly changed my view on her. When all 5 of us were helping except me, I asked what I could do to help, and that's when she said to me, I don't really have anything for you to do. You're kind of useless, and we don't need you in the project. Now, I try hard not to get emotional, but I couldn't help but wither away inside just a little bit. I don't have many friends, and I cherish the ones that I have. So that comment really hurt my feelings, but I didn't say anything. The others were also very confused and angry with Amber. Fast forward and Lily caught up with me, and while Amber wasn't around, we discussed what just happened. As we were in the middle of the conversation, Amber came into the room. Amber then said to me, "Hey, can we talk for a second?" And after I said sure, Amber kept glaring at Lily when she was apologizing for saying that. And in that moment, it honestly just felt so fake. She then said to me, "If you want, you can be in my project. Are you sure you don't want to help?" But I just responded by saying, "Well, you clearly didn't want me, so it's fine." After Amber left, me and Lily both had the same feeling that this was fake, and this was just the beginning of Amber's weird actions. After that incident, I started to see everything Amber was doing more clearly. It felt like I was trapped and being manipulated. I felt like if I told someone, she would be mad at me. I continued working on the group assignment alone and kept asking her if we could work on it. And she would either say, "I don't want to work on it right now," or she would help for a little bit, but then resume watching YouTube or play games rather than doing any work. One day, I asked her in the morning, since we had both gotten there pretty early, "Hey, can you please work on this now? We finally have time and it's due very soon." But before I could go any further, she screamed at me to shut the F up. I did not even get to finish my sentence and she was already cursing me out. But just before that, she was talking just fine to Riley. I don't even know what I did to her. Of course, me being me, I got upset and I gave her the silent treatment. The next time I was alone with Riley, Lily, and Corey, Riley told me that I had to separate her from our group project because she was using me. I didn't deny what she said, but I just can't because I would feel too guilty. They ended up convincing me that it wasn't my fault for what happened, but I honestly don't know if I should send this email to my teacher. What should I do? Okay, as someone who's had awful group project members in my past, honestly, you need to cut the head off the snake and walk away. If Amber reacts poorly to you being like, "Listen, I don't want to partner up with her," then truly that is Amber's problem and not yours. Because here's the facts. She's not doing anything to help out the project, and she's treating you like garbage anytime you bring it up. Like, that's so unfair, and it's honestly super obnoxious. Like, that kind of behavior just does not sit right with me, and I don't blame you for being really frustrated. And sure, I get it. For some reason, you think that Amber's your friend. But let me tell you something. Amber is not your friend. If anything, she is using you just like your friends are saying. She would much rather you do all the work so that she can sit by and watch YouTube videos or play games instead of putting hard work in herself. So no, you're not the jerk, and you should not feel guilty in the slightest for talking to your teacher, because the way Amber's treating you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My teacher yelled at me yesterday, and I decided to ignore her when she tried to apologize this morning. But now, as a result, I'm worried that I might be overreacting in this situation, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I feel like kind of a jerk, so I need some other opinions on this situation. Basically, my English teacher yelled at me in class yesterday over a chair. I was sitting in my regular spot, and a friend of mine came over and put a chair in front of me, which he sat in for like 2 minutes before getting up and walking away. And so because of that, I put my feet on it. He comes back about 15 minutes before the period ends and asks for the chair, to which I tell him there are millions of other ones that he can take. Well, my teacher then joins the conversation and tells me to give him his chair. Now, I had already been irritated before all of this, so I have to admit I got a bit frustrated and I took my feet off the chair. My friend then tries to just say I can have it, which kind of pissed me off, so I said, "Okay, just take this stupid chair." When I said that, my teacher then started yelling at me. She told me I didn't own the classroom and I didn't have the right to act like that. So I apologized and kept to myself basically the rest of the period, but she kept walking around and telling people I was mad at her, which caused me to just sort of break down. Fast forward to present day, and she apologized when she saw me in the hallway, and I just responded by staring at her and not saying saying anything. Now, I would not be ignoring her if her outburst didn't cause bigger issues for me, but I feel like I'm overreacting and I should just move on because I know it's not her fault that I caused what I did. I just had a bad weekend and her yelling really got to me. It's also important to note that I've never really had any issues with this or really with any other teacher. What should I do? Okay, first of all, I don't think you did anything to your teacher, and it really does seem like this situation is completely overblown. She freaked out on you for literally no reason and then has the audacity to try and apologize in private. Like if that were me, I'd be like, oh, thank you for the apology, but let's do that in front of the class. Because if she wants to embarrass you in front of the class, then she can absolutely have the decency of apologizing in front of the class. But that's just my opinion because honestly, people who act like this are so toxic. They treat you like garbage in public and then they try to apologize and make it better when nobody's looking. And in this situation, this teacher absolutely fits the bill. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.